everyone. Welcome to CG Spectrum's first digital illustration info sections. I'm your host today. My name is Yanchong Lai. A bit about myself, I'm the course advisor at CG Spectrums and also a member of the admissions teams. So basically, we are the first point of contact if you are interested in our school. So if you have any questions about application process, course we offer, you want to discuss about payment plans, or the most important thing, enrollment deadlines, feel free to send us an email at hello@cgspectrum.com or leave a message at the inquire field in our websites. It will be our honor to help you to start your career path with CG Spectrum. So today we're going to talk about illustrations. May I introduce to you my very friendly colleague and an amazing illustrator, Eric Wilkerson. Hello, Eric.
Hi, Jan. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric. I've been working professionally as an illustrator for the past 20 years now, both in staff in a studio environment and as a freelancer working from home. I've worked across film, advertising, publishing in children's books, book covers, comic book covers, video games, and like a ton of different things. Won a couple of awards, and I primarily use Photoshop for a lot of the digital illustration work that I do. I worked for companies such as What a Workshop, Marvel, Wizards of the Coast, working on Magic the Gathering, Dark Horse, Scholastic, and Disney Publishing. So through working with CG Spectrum, I've been given the opportunity to give back what I've learned over the past 20 years of my career with the students that enroll in the courses here.
Awesome. Next, we're going to see videos of the work produced by Eric.
It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity.
All right, so we're here today for the illustration sessions, but before that, I'm going to introduce a bit more about CG Spectrum to you. So we are an online animations, visual effects, digital painting, and game development school offering specialized career training and mentorship from industry experts just like Eric. We have mentors from all around the world that cover students from all different time zones. And we're proud to say that our job success rate has reached to 70 to 80% based on recent graduate students. Just like many of you are coming from all different countries, we enroll students from more than 90 different countries right now. Besides all this, we also provide career development service provided by a very lovely career development managers. We're going to mention about it and discuss a bit more about it later in the sessions. Also, we'll provide students with a lifelong access to the private community. So besides illustration, we also provide different courses under 5 different umbrellas. They are digital painting, 3D modeling, visual effects, game development, and animations. In the futures, we're going to continue providing info sessions just like this current one to all the courses we provide. So stay tuned if you are interested in more than illustrations, or pass the message to friends and families around you that would like to start their career in either film or game industry. Talking about our successful alumni, here's some students graduated from all different courses from CG Spectrum and have been hired by studios that mentioned above. Eric, I know that Philip is actually your student. Would you like to introduce him to everyone?
Yeah, Philip is one of my students that had enrolled in the Intro to Illustration program, Intro to Concept Art and Illustration program. And he was brand new, had never done this before. And I really worked him hard. And we covered everything from lighting, anatomy, perspective to basic composition. And he moved on to other courses within CG Spectrum, and in a pretty short period of time was able to secure work as a concept artist at a studio in Poland. So I was very proud of his work ethic and his success.
And we are also very happy to have Oliver with us today. Hey, Oliver.
Hello.
So Oliver is also one of our graduates from the Advanced Illustration course. And here I will pass it to you, Oliver.
Hello. So hi, I'm Ollie. I'm currently one of the technical assistants. That's the one. I'm still down at the CG Spectrum. I've recently I passed and qualified with my advanced illustration, and which was really good fun. I did that with Eric. I'll firstly talk with why I chose CG Spectrum. It's mainly the learning format which worked for me. Because we start with a lesson at the start of the week when we have like a midweek part where everybody kind of gets together and kind of like goes through what you've done that week, and then you get assessed and you get feedback from your mentor, and then as long as you get that by Friday then they can have a look at it over the weekend, and then they get your feedback ready for the next kind of like starting week. And it was one of the main things that I found really useful, because they're kind of pre-recorded sessions. You can get it through in your own time. Because I was working a full-time job, I was able to kind of like waggle it around, you know, family life, walking dogs, everything else, and still learn. So that was really good. One of the main reasons as well that I kind of chose illustration over concept art is that I can't stand drawing the same thing 50 times in a slightly different way. So I much rather pour my heart and soul into one image than I would trying to do 50 different batteries with a slight different twist to it. But that's me personally. I mean, if you're up for doing that, go for it. And the other thing is, because with Eric's course, they kind of help you tailor your portfolio as to which kind of industry you want to go into. And one of my main kind of loves, always has been, is Magic the Gathering. So when I saw that Eric was kind of like one of the kind of like, Eric's really kind of well known within for his traditional artwork as well for Magic the Gathering. And that was one of the things that I was quite interested in kind of like getting into. So with his knowledge and kind of like the course, how it was set out, really kind of like helped me learn things from like narrative, learning how to give and receive feedback, and basically give me the confidence to kind of go out into the big wide world. And that's kind of what I was lacking. I knew how to paint digitally, but I was lacking something. So this is kind of what helped me get out there. So this is kind of, when we talk about concepting and illustration, this was actually a concept I did of a character that I was then going to illustrate into a card. And one part of the illustration course is to then create a card art. And in Magic the Gathering, you're generally given kind of like a world folder where everything is concepted for you, and you have to kind of go by what they deem is part of their world. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of like build my own character and then put that character into an illustration. And this was the character concept that I came up with. So if we go through the slides, then I can show you. So this was the piece is called Tilly's Atonement. And the story is she was an assassin, and on the scroll, when you wrote down your sins, you would then atone for your sins and you would feel the pain that you inflicted on other people. The first one was basically the rough of what I put down. This one here, you could see Eric had started to put over his artful eye, as it were, to sort of like criticize what I was doing and help me kind of explore different ways of putting this down onto the page. So if we go on to the next one, you can see then kind of what I took from his feedback, and then I kind of like developed that into a further illustration to help really push the narrative and help you kind of like read what the story was all about. So we talk about like tonal values and contrast and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like with all the feedback, it kind of like really helps you push your images to what they truly could be. So then the final one is when we start applying color to our tonal values. And this was the kind of finished picture that I ended up with. So yeah, this one also kind of got noticed by, the Tilly's Atonement one got noticed by an art director on my socials, and it actually got me a pretty decent and interesting job doing some freelance work, making some pitch art for a company I can't talk about because it's under an NDA at the minute, but it's a really exciting project. And so I'm really grateful to the illustration team and Eric especially for kind of like pushing me beyond my boundaries to kind of be recognized. So yeah, no, really happy with that. This is a piece called, I don't know if you know the legend of Baba Yaga, but one of the things we did within the CG Spectrum community is we do little challenges as well. So one of the things that we set up was to do a kind of like a challenge to design a character that could be in a video game. And I used my love of World of Warcraft, like Blizzard Nut, and the legend of Baba Yaga, who is a Swedish, I think it's Swedish, correct me if I'm wrong, legend. And she's basically some crazy little old lady who lives in a hut which walks around in raptor legs. So I thought I would take that and inspire that. Kind of this came about of how I could basically create a character for some game art. So it's not necessarily illustration, but through the community, we do other things that push you kind of out of your comfort zone to help you broaden your skills as well, which is really, really helpful. So this is a time lapse of a piece that I did called Beowulf, so you can see at the start, we end up doing tiny little thumbs, and then you go with I went with this particular piece. You start off with tonal values, work out composition, and then in this piece, I actually used for the first time some 3D elements. So this year I got my head around Blender. It's a lot less daunting than you think it is. The UI is a bit crazy, but it was really, really useful to kind of like learn the basic skills when it came to 3D to help with lighting and composition and stuff like that. So you can see in the little time lapse that it always starts off with this like tonal values. So you can see here in the foreground where I wasn't quite sure where the lighting was going to kind of like be like bounced off parts of the models and the characters to really kind of help push that. Just using even simple shapes in Blender with some simple lighting. I mean, Eric goes through all of this type of, not necessarily Blender, but we use DAZ 3D to model little characters and to really kind of go through how you can utilize that if you haven't got reference for something, how you can use other 3D programs to help with your illustration. So this was one of the first times I actually utilized 3D in my illustration, and I think it came out quite well for the first time, but yeah, it was really, really, really fun to do.
So I have a student named Luis. Luis is from Chile. And I just wanted to let people know that whoever's watching this and might be interested in the course, that it's not just for students that are coming into learning illustration for the first time or have no idea what they're doing or what it's all about. It's also for professional illustrators that just want to put a polish on what they already know how to do. I've had a few people come through the course, some concept artists that are trying to improve their illustration skills. They work at video game studios abroad in other countries, and they were told by their bosses, you need to improve your rendering ability, your narrative picture making ability, it's so that we have faith that you could handle a splash art image or whatever it is that they want that concept artist to paint. In Luis's case, he was already a working professional doing work as a muralist and a freelance illustrator for various fantasy gaming companies around South America. And he has joined the course in order to put a polish on his existing skills. Now, one of the guarantees, I've been able to make this a guarantee with my students, is that after the first 12 weeks, you are going to be better than what you walked in with. The quality of your work at the end of the first 12 weeks is going to be infinitely better. And for Luis, it was a really fun experiment because he was bringing me jobs that he was actively working on, showing me his card art illustrations and things. And after the first 12 weeks, his clients started to see him level up, and they saw that improvement in his work, and they started giving him more jobs. So, for him as a father of 3, he was very happy about that. And you have children or family members around, you use them as free labor, free models for your illustration work. And he was able to turn his daughter into a Fox Girl splash art illustration sample.
Free labor and the best labor, best reference.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides Oliver, we also have Penny today with us. Penny is our technical assistant head at CG Spectrums. Hello, Penny.
Hey guys. It's always so fun seeing some of my peers work. I've kind of grown up alongside these guys, so Luis and Oliver too. Like, it's very, I don't know, it's reaffirming, and it's so cool to see everyone's growth after a certain time. I personally, my name's Penny, obviously, so hi, thank you all for joining. I've been studying concept art and illustration with Eric for the duration of my time here. I've been with CG Spectrum for nearly 2 years now. So it's been a long time. And, time flies when you have fun, as the saying goes. But, I started back in November of 2020. So that was very mid-pandemic. And a little bit about myself, like I think this goes for a lot of people, that there were a lot of benefits to, unfortunately, kind of being trapped indoors for long periods of time. And it gave me some real inspiration to just kind of focus on the things that I really wanted to do in life, and I just hadn't really gotten a chance to do yet. For me, that was just art. I've always been so passionate about the creative fields. I've never really put sketching down, but I've been through previous colleges. I've picked up my iPad here and there. I've followed YouTube videos the best of my abilities. I've reached out to people, you name it, really. I've done all I could, but my creativity and drive had been put on hold for so long. I felt really detached in terms of knowing what my skills were or where I belonged, creatively. And I always thought this was just such an unattainable goal that I never really considered going to school for digital art. So like I remember times that I just spent gazing at my little art flat books inside my old games, you know, my old Xbox 360 games, my PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games, staring at all my favorite book covers that we had growing up, and movie posters, DVD covers, VHS covers, you know, like stuff that I grew up with. And I saw the art and I knew it was art, but I didn't know exactly what it was or why it was there. It was just pretty to me and I wanted to copy it. And so I would spend time like tracing over things. And anyway, overall, I think the pandemic just gave me like the push I needed to kind of refocus and transition out of my previous job situation and just kind of commit to doing what I had always wanted to do. And that was art. So CG Spectrum kind of answered that call. And here I am. I'm the head of the technical assistance here for CG Spectrum. And I do want to take a few seconds just to talk about us and my team. My teammates are amazing. Oliver is one of our TAs as well. So he is the TA for the concept art and illustration department, but we do have departments all across the board. So for 3D modeling, for game programming, game design, animation, you name it. So we kind of have, helping hands in every field that we offer. But all of us are previous or current students, just like me and Oliver. And in fact, I'm actually still taking an advanced course. So, all of us have progressed far enough in our fundamentals that we're able to help grow other students and just be another helpful resource to you as you get more involved in the community with us. Our team covers all the departments. Again, like I say, we're here to help you along the way and offer fun things to do like challenges. We'll set up exclusive interview sessions with mentors, group projects, and we even do things like movie nights. So it's very much like you're, part of our world now too. Like we want to hang out with you. We want to know who you are, what field of study you're in. Our goal is to help networking feel more natural, especially if you're new to online work or online school situations. And definitely seek us out if you do end up joining the school, because we would definitely want to get to know you and help show you around and introduce you to everybody. So when we go through these next few slides, I just want to kind of talk about one question that I think it might be on your minds, and I know for sure it was definitely on mine when I first started out, which was, what is actually the difference between concept art and illustration? And visually, I'm going to walk you through it. So this is one of the concept art pieces that I made with Eric. Actually, I think this is probably my first concept piece I ever made with Eric in one of our terms, in one of our first terms together. But this is Nick Thorne. He's my private eye Android concept. Right here we have in my concepts for Nick in the early stages of me playing around, just trying to figure out what Nick would look like. We call this the start of the concept design phase, right? So I'm concepting, by thumbnailing, I'm piecing things together that I like, I'm taking things away that I don't like. I'm figuring out what shapes to use, what materials I think need to be there, figuring out the silhouette, making choices about things that I'd like to take to render, which will turn out like this. And I know there's some details and phases within these phases that I'm kind of cutting out, but just to give you a gist and in a condensed form, you start with the thumbs, you end with something like this as a render, where, whether it be a prop, an environment, a character, it doesn't really matter. This is usually where that phase stops in concepting. Everything is detailed, it's finished. You can tell what materials things are. The smoke from his cigarette brings some life and movement. So obviously this tells us he's a living thing, or, something that moves, something that works. The glow from his fixtures are visual points of interest. Everything is fine to stop here with this design and can now be passed on to another team, analyzed, pushed forward. And your job here is essentially done, unless you want to push it that one step further and make an illustration. And this is the phase where we can instantly understand what world this character now lives in. It's not just dropping them into an environment. It's not just coloring a background and expecting your concepts to pop. Like, there's storytelling here. That is exclusive to illustration. we're using our concepts in a functional, living, breathing world, like a moment in time. And so the difference between concept art and illustration is that concepts help us figure out what things look like, where they go, how they function, what they're made of. But an illustration, tells the story by bringing all those little details you worked out together into a final piece. And on my next slide here, beware, I have a bit of a grisly sense of humor. So a lot of my work is reflective of darker sensibilities. So sorry, not sorry. But this is an example of an illustration I created last year called Kiss the Cook. This is a narrative, I hope a fun one that gives you kind of an instant read. You get an immediate sense of what's going on, the story's here. And, the funny thing about this piece is that it's super heavily inspired, personally by R.L. Stine's Goosebumps books. And I wanted to share some kind of real world examples from illustrator Tim Jacobus, who's also another pretty much an idol of mine. He doesn't know he's getting this shout out, by the way, but he is. So, basically what his process is when it comes to illustrating. And I just so happen to have this book here with me. I'm just going to kind of flip it open real quick to show a very similar process to what Oliver was showing us, in that essentially even the most popular illustrators out there always start with a concepting phase, for sure, to detail out everything. We're looking at where things go, we're paying attention to composition, we're seeing where things land on a page, how is it going to be displayed, where should I put that tree, where is that going to lead my eye in my piece. And hopefully you're as familiar with Goosebumps books as I am, but I wanted to talk about this piece and his work because that's what made his books so popular. They were eye-catching, they were colorful, they told a story without even having to open the book, they sold themselves. And I think that's kind of what always drew me into looking at those inside book flaps of my video games and of my DVD covers and VHS covers, and studying and tracing so religiously. It was that there is a real drive and necessity for to have illustration in our lives. And I think as artists, we have that as our final go-to, whereas concepting, you are doing reiterations and it is useful in creating the overall idea, but once you actually have that story and that narrative, you want to just hit it home with that final image. So anyway, that's my passionate spiel about illustration, and hopefully you understand a little bit more about the differences between getting from the concept phase to the illustration phase.
Thank you, Penny. We also have some other students' works. This one is from Curtis Huang. It's also Eric's students.
Yeah, so to just piggyback off of what Penny was saying, all of my students, or most of my students, start off with a concept phase, especially if they are trying to create a character that doesn't exist. They need to understand what that character looks like, what they're wearing, what their silhouette is, the overall design of the character, all the stuff that you would learn in the intro to concept art course. But then at a certain point, we now have to tell a story with this character. So what is she going to be doing with those tentacles? How large are they? What is she going to look like with certain types of lighting hitting her body? All of these things would be worked out in a final illustration. So for the second project in term one, I have students do an illustration based off of the story of Beowulf, and no student gives me the exact same thing. Every single one of them gives me some variation on the idea, and this was Curtis's concept and then his final illustration. So he let me know what the design of the character was going to be, and then finally shows me what the action is, what the story is. We talk about camera angles, we talk about cinematography, we talk about the importance of lighting and drama and atmosphere and all of the things you need to create a compelling image. So his work did not look like this at the beginning of term one. So by the end of term one, this is what he was able to produce. And I was very, very pleased with his progress. So this is another one of my students, Jessica. So in term three, we'll talk about the step-by-step what we're going to be covering. But in term three of the illustration course, it's essentially an independent study where students that are very focused and on a specific goal can tell me what it is they want to do. And we will tailor the last 12 weeks of the course to that goal. Jessica was very passionate about one day working for Blizzard. And she's made a few contacts with the company, within the company, and had the ability to share her work directly with art directors and various lead concept artists there. So she decided to walk through the entire pipeline. Let me show you what the concept of the character is going to be, what her hairstyle might be, what her armaments might be, the weapons and all of the different accessories that she has for her clothing. And then for the final illustration, she creates a Hearthstone inspired image. So we took the time to study the palette, study the composition, study the stylistic differences between a type of like a photorealistic illustration that you might see for Magic the Gathering or for Riot Games splash art, but to be able to clearly understand the differences between brands and to make sure that her artwork, every single sample that she created for samples for Blizzard were on brand. And I think she's on her 6th or 7th sample to show to Blizzard right now. But also very proud of her progress over the course of the 9-month course. I also wanted to let people know that if you see my work, I'm not trying to make clones of myself. I think it's very important to state that because I don't need the extra competition, but also I want people to know that you don't need to be a super photorealistic illustrator or aim toward that. If you are looking to be more of a whimsical, anime inspired, more children's book friendly inspired style, I am perfectly capable of speaking to that as well. In my career over the past 20 years, I've bounced back and forth and have been able to switch styles and work for animation studios, work on children's books. I have a children's book coming out April 5th, actually. So it's completely stylistically different from everything I've done, but I know how to switch those gears. And I can speak to that when it comes to helping students find their voice, figure out what they want to do, not make little clones of myself. So this is the work of one of my students named Isabel. This is the work that she did. This is her Beowulf project, completely polar opposite from what Curtis did, right? And stylistically, lighting wise, everything. And she nailed it. And I was very happy with her progress. Also somebody that came from the concept art department and whose work was leveled up over the course of 12 weeks. So I'm really excited having her develop projects in our second term together right now.
I totally agree with you that we should not teach our students to be a copycat or just copying what their mentors are doing, because our mentors are already very famous and their works has been seen by many studios and supervisors. So we need new blood into this industry. We need to see something new rather than what's already been produced. So what we're teaching here is just, I can already see there are so many different styles from your students, Eric. So they are all different from each other. And we are very proud that we have students like that.
So just again, on top of what Penny was saying, it's one thing to show you student work, but it's another to show you real world examples, real studio examples of the difference between the two. Now, concept art being the character design, the prop design, the environment design, the weapons, and all of those different assets that you're creating separately. And then you would pass that on to a 3D modeler or animation department or some fabrication team for a live action film that would then build a physical model of that design. We have the work of Adi Granov, one of the original concept art team from the first Iron Man movie. So they were taking his existing design from his run on Marvel Comics Iron Man. He was doing the cover art for Iron Man and helped redesign I think it was the Mark III, Mark IV suit, and was playing with iterations on the shoulders and the gauntlet design and what the legs, the leg rockets and all that stuff would look like. So then that would get passed on to another department that would fabricate it. So I believe this is the costume design or design for the villain's Ironmonger, I believe, suit from the first Iron Man film. But this is where it would end for the concept art part of the process. One of the other things we talk about in the course is the differences between film illustration and work that would be done in publishing and the quality differences and things like that. But the next image here is a keyframe illustration, which takes all of those concepts, your prop design, your character design, your weapons, all of that stuff that a concept artist would be in charge of developing, and then puts it into a moment. We're telling a story here. We have put these two character designs into an environment. We are showing the audience that this is a specific key moment from the film where they are laying waste to an entire highway fighting each other. There are key important details in the ground, in the actions around them that let us know that this is not a fight that just started. We are right in the middle of this fight. Cars are flying off. There's cracked pavement and there's all kinds of stuff going on around them, but we can see what these two characters interacting might look like. And as something like this gets passed along to the production team, the directors and all of that, and they get to see, okay, well, we like it, but what if it was in a forest? Or what if there was a lava background behind them? Or what if they're this or that? And that's up to the concept artists and the illustration, the visual development team to further iterate on that. But this gives you an idea of what the concept art stage and what the illustration stage of this process is.
So let's say that you're ready to enroll now. What should you do and how would you start to learn illustrations? Well, in CG Spectrums, you have two ways to start your course. The first one, you can start with the Introduction to Concept Art and Digital Illustration. This is a 3-month course, and it's exactly the same as the first term of the Concept Art and Digital Illustration course. So when you complete the intro course, you can start to enroll in the second term and the third term of the full course seamlessly, and then continue your studies. After taking the 9-month course, it's time for you to pick if you want to do advanced concept arts or if you want to specialize in advanced digital illustration course. And then it will be another 9 months for you to complete the advanced course. At the end of the advanced course, you will have a portfolio ready to start your job hunting. If you want to just start straight away without testing the water, you can also enroll directly into the 9-month concept art and digital illustration course. So yeah, feel free to drop us your application starting from today. Next, we're going to run through our curriculum very quickly with Eric.
So the introduction to concept art and illustration course really starts people off with the not assuming that you understand what concept art is or any of that, but we walk you through the fundamentals of art and design. We start off with line drawing, covering line weight and all of the details that would help you to create a still life drawing. Then in week 2, we start to talk about value control and blending and how light hits a form. Week 3, we talk about color and colorization, talking about blend modes and how to color digitally in Photoshop. Week 4, we get into perspective drawing, understanding your 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, all of that. Week 5, we're talking about, this is our introduction to anatomy, anatomical drawing. Week 6, again, another intro to anatomy. Week 7, we're getting into iteration and reference gathering, which is very important for our new students that are just used to just pulling ideas out of their head and just making it up as they go and failing. This is where we talk about, if you want to paint or draw something that doesn't exist, you need to understand what it looks like. Week 8, thumbnail creation. Week 9, we get into sketching. Week 10, we get into focusing on line, value, and rendering concept design. And week 11, we talk more in depth about color, talking about the color wheel, different types of color schemes. And in week 12, we are focused specifically on presenting a polished concept design to a client. So in term 2, we are again focused on light, and in week 1 and week 2, we're again focused on light and how reflected and refracted light affects a form. Week 3, we're talking about materials and textures. Week 4, it's about material rendering and assets. Week 5, iterative design in sketching. Week 6, iterative design in rendering. Week 7, we go back to focusing on life drawing and gesture drawing. Week 8 is again focusing on life drawing and figure drawing exercises. Week 9 as well. Week 10 is about dynamic posing, cinematic posing. So a lot of concept artists are just used to doing those T-pose, just the character just standing around doing nothing but looking cool. This is all about, let's show your character in action. What is that going to look like? Did you have reference? I hope so. Week 11, style. We really get into talking about the different styles of concept art. Everything from the cute anime stuff to the hyper-realism and everything in between. And then week 12, we walk through a demo and show, have the students build up different styles of the same exact image. So that's term 2. Term 3 is our teaser introduction to the illustration program, and a teaser aimed at the advanced concept art program. So in week 1, we get into environment design, creating something based on a client brief. So in week 2, we finalize that existing design. Week 3, we get into set design, same thing, where we're creating a set, creating an entire room or exterior setting, focused on the all the design and render aesthetics. So in week 4, we're focused on coloring that asset. Week 5, we get into game level design, concept design. And week 6, game level, working with textures and photos and photo manipulation and things like that, or photo bashing, as the kids like to say. Week 7, we get into basic composition and start learning how to direct and lead the eye through a composition. Week 8 is basic composition part 2, where we're focusing on, after we've focused on different compositional armatures and leading the eye through the image, how do you light and how do you use light and value to further direct the attention of the viewer. So week 9, we talk in depth about compositional armatures. And in week 10, we focus on focal points and how to lead the eye. Week 11 is all about it's more of an introduction to storyboarding, actually, where we're talking about camera angles and camera shots and how you can, the usage of storyboarding in games and film and animation. So week 12, we're talking about framing and staging an illustration or staging a composition. So that's all 9 months of the concept art intro course.
I saw there's an audience asking, what is game level?
Yeah, so the game level design, I believe, is the one where we have students, we have given them an existing asset. We've given them a 3D model of an environment. And it is really up to you to take that existing 3D model, that just rough block model, and build over top of it and create a concept design around that. So making that environment look post-apocalyptic, or science fiction, futuristic, or something anywhere in between. But you have been given an existing 3D asset to work from. CG Spectrum's Advanced Illustration course was designed to be the most comprehensive course for narrative illustration online today. It consists of just about everything you would learn in a 4-year brick and mortar art school, packed into 36 weeks of lecture material, plus additional lecture and demos by your CGS mentor. So in week 1, we dive into how to create an illustration. We talk about the ergonomics of painting, how to mimic traditional painting in Photoshop, and introduce students to the first of a series of videos covering the history of illustration, starting with the works of Howard Pyle. So it's dense. It's a densely packed class. I made it that way for a reason, because I really want this to be the best offering that any student is going to get. So week 2, we talk about advanced staging and composition. So this is kind of, if somebody took the 3rd term of the intro course, this gives you even more information about hows and whys of how to create a composition. Week 3, we get into gathering reference. We talk about hiring models, finding model reference, building maquettes, playing around with ZBrush or Blender, things like that. For any student or anybody watching this that is familiar with the works of James Gurney, is a sci-fi fantasy illustrator and creator of the Dinotopia series. He has a very popular YouTube channel and blog. He's all about preparation before creating anything that doesn't exist. He will go outside and take photos of dinosaurs. He will sculpt what he needs and photograph it. If you are painting or drawing something that doesn't exist, you need to understand how light hits the form. And that is what that week is all about. I have a ton of maquettes sitting on my shelf that I show my students and walk them through the process of that, and then what the final illustration looks like. So in week 4, we talk about light and value control, atmosphere, and all of the different things that you need to understand to properly stage and focus your illustration. Week 5, we get into advanced digital painting techniques and cover different demos and have guest speakers come through and speak on some of these things. In this term, I'm also introducing students not just to golden age illustrators like Howard Pyle and N.C. Wyeth and Dean Cornwell and things like that, but I'm also introducing them to some contemporary illustrators that do the same kind of work that I do, so that you're not just hearing one voice. So week 6, we're getting into cinematic storytelling and how to use color and light in order to evoke an emotional response in the viewer. This is something that is done in cinematography for film, in animation, and it's done in comic books, it's done throughout entertainment. And it is something that I feel that every concept artist and illustrator needs to know in order to produce a quality result. So in week 7, we get into gathering reference using 3D. In week 8, we're talking about advanced staging and composition. In week 9, we're getting into advanced color theory and application. We specifically move through different color schemes and focusing on the color wheel, because I want students to understand how to use color accurately to get the results that they want to get. Week 10, we get into advanced color theory. It's so much, we had to get into it again in week 2. I mean, in week 10. Then in week 11 and 12, we are focusing on traditional painting techniques. So there might be a lot of, for those digital illustrators out there, or those digital painters out there that might want to get a taste of creating an original piece of art, that's what those 2 weeks are about. And now I threw that in there specifically because there is a growing aftermarket for a lot of illustration work, depending on the brand that you're working on. So if you, let's say you're doing something for Marvel and you did a digital painting for a Spider-Man comic book cover, then that's it. It's just, you can just sell prints. Maybe you could sell prints of that image. But if you had a physical object, then it gives, or a sketch or something like that. Even if your end result was digital, if you have a sketch that is traditionally done, whether in watercolor or pencil or something like that, it gives you a second revenue stream. So we talk about a lot of that stuff as well. Term 2 starts off by taking everything that we've covered in the first 12 weeks of the course, and we apply it to the creation of a book cover illustration. So in week 1, we're really focusing on rough sketches and world building. What's the story? What do the characters look like? Let's build up the concept and let's figure out where to go next with that piece. In week 2, we go over talking about creating a dynamic composition with thorough examples across the history of sci-fi fantasy book cover illustration, dipping all the way back into the 1950s pulp art to contemporary work done for major publishers today. In week 3, we talk about leveling up your rendering and gathering reference and what it takes to make a polished illustration for publishing. Week 4 is about finding your voice, because there's so many artists out there that might not know where they want to take their art. They might not know where they want to go with it. And again, I'm not trying to make little book cover clones of myself. I want the student to try to start figuring out, what do you enjoy? And I have some students that have never seen Star Trek, have no interest in Star Wars, no interest in sci-fi whatsoever. They want to do cute children's book kind of stuff. They want to do anime influenced kind of stuff. And that's fine. That's you. If you have figured out who you are and what it is you love to do, then great. Then we can start to evolve the course around that. But that's where that conversation starts to take place. We also have a guest cover artist, guest speaker come through and speak to the class about their process and what it is that they do. Well, weeks 5 through 8 are really focusing on trading card art, gaming art. So I have a lot of students that are building up their portfolios around a focus toward working for Blizzard, doing Hearthstone, or doing work for Magic the Gathering, or creating splash art for any number of different gaming studios. So we talk about the responsibility of card art and design. We talk about, in week 6, we talk about gaming art and visual hierarchy. And that's a really important thing to understand when you're dealing with an image that's going to be reduced down to, on the back of a trading card, or that needs to be seen from a distance and be readable. So week 7, we talk about reference gathering for fantasy art. Again, if it doesn't exist, you need to understand how light hits that form. So in week 8, we're working on polishing your art, and we have a guest speaker that currently works as an artist for Magic the Gathering. For those of you that might not be familiar with what Magic the Gathering is, Magic the Gathering is a very popular card game produced by Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro Games. And they have been around for 30 years, and they have over 30 million players worldwide. It's one of the top gigs, most consistent, top paying gigs for sci-fi fantasy illustrators today. And I'm proud to count myself among that roster. So weeks 9 through 12, we're focusing on promotional art and keyframe illustration. So in week 9, I'm really giving you an introduction to toy illustrators, game and film illustration. What are the differences between them? What is the difference between all of that and the stuff that you would do for publishing? We talk in week 10 about composing a movie poster or game poster illustration. What are the rules of composition and compositional armatures applied for the creation of poster art done for, big budget films, video games, all of the Star Wars movie posters? All of that stuff has its own compositional armatures that we talk about in depth. And then we have a guest speaker that worked for Marvel Studios and is currently working on the next thing for Hollywood right now. So she's comes through and speaks to us. So week 11, we talk about keyframe art. What is keyframe art? What is what are the rules of that? How do you create a keyframe illustration? And there's demos and things like that that I show. We also cover cinematography, the rules, or some of the things that film majors and learn for cinematography, the lighting and compositional things that are taught to film majors that or directors and things like that, that you can apply to your illustration. In week 12, we talk about animation, color keys, and lighting. So that is our taste of what it's like to work as a visual development artist. So for those people that don't understand what that is or what that might be, a visual development artist is basically a concept artist. It's just a different term for a concept artist, but they are focused on animation and film. So you would have, a concept artist for film and animation has to be able to do a little bit of everything. They've got to be able to create the character, all of the different assets, the props and all that stuff. But they have to have a very strong understanding of camera angles and color theory and all of that stuff. And they have to be able to evoke an emotional response in the viewer through simple paintings. And this is where we talk about that. Color keys, if you see a ton of that work in art of books, I've got a bunch of them on my bookshelf right now, Finding Nemo and Boss Baby, all of that stuff has artists that started off their education in concept art and illustration, and they can apply that knowledge to visual development. So I'm not just trying to introduce people to working in publishing. I'm letting you know here are here are most of the different avenues you can explore as a professional illustrator working today. I have illustrator friends of mine that have branched out into production design and toy design and all of these different things, but they have a solid understanding of light, value, composition, color theory, and they can apply it masterfully to their work. So term 3 is all about portfolio and career development. And in week 1, we talk about different career pathways. We're talking about industry trends and how to build up a client list. Week 2 is about self-promotion and how to build a website and how to navigate social media. There are people that, I have students that are really good, and I had to scream at them about putting their work on a website so that people would know they exist. If you are the most amazing illustrator and you don't have a website, no one will care. No one will know that you exist, and you will just be alone. But if you have a website, think of a website as a house out in the woods. If you have a house out in the woods and there are no roads leading to it, how will anybody see your work? And that's where social media comes in. That's where the Twitter and the Facebook and the Instagram and all that stuff comes in. So we talk about that in depth. Week 3, preparing for portfolio reviews. We talk about networking and how to approach art directors. Week 4, we talk about pricing and contracts, networking and all of that. So week 5, we're talking in depth about how to handle your first commissions. And we get into a little bit about resume building and all of that. Week 6, it's about finding your audience and how to juggle more than one stream of income. In week 7, we talk about staff versus freelance work. Not everybody wants to work in a cubicle. Not everybody wants to work in a group of people with a group of people. They want to work alone. And that's where the difference is. We talk about the differences between staff and freelance illustration and concept design and all of that. Considering the pandemic and all of the changes going on in the industry, more and more studios are allowing their employees to work from home. So you could still be a part of a group, but you are doing Zoom calls and things like that. So how do you manage your time when you don't have a director or somebody actually physically over your shoulder? We talk about all of that as well. Week 8 is about developing personal projects. And personal projects have led to great things for a lot of artists that I've met in my time, and especially for myself. I probably wouldn't be speaking to any of you today had I not painted one image. And that image was seen by thousands of people. And I was already a working professional, but that I painted one thing for myself and it went viral. And I was contacted by my now agent, who presented my work to Disney Publishing and a number of other studios. And now I'm sitting here talking to you. So whether your goal is working for Blizzard, whether your goal is working for Magic the Gathering, or whatever it is that you want to do, showing a client, a potential client, what you are most passionate about is sometimes a way in to doing the work that you really will love to do. Week 9 is the path of the independent artist. And so there are many illustrators today that are moving away from the standard business model of working for large companies. They're focusing instead on selling their work directly to their fan base through platforms like Patreon, or directly at conventions and things like that. So we talk in depth about that direction for your art. Week 10, we get into talking about skill development practices, daily routines and things like that. Week 11, we get into motivational guidelines. We talk about in depth about how to maintain your mental and emotional health while working as an illustrator. Covered a lot of stuff. I mean, you guys still with me? Because it's dense. I packed it in there.
That's why, that's why our session is recording.
Week 12 is the final 5 tips for how to have a successful career as an artist in today's workplace. And I also took the time to ask a ton of different professional illustrators and concept artists and people working across platforms, animation to film. What is one piece of advice you would give yourself if you could go back in time? And everybody had some really great bits of advice that I believe would be beneficial for anybody to hear. So that is the course.
So resourceful. You're really trying to condense everything into this 18-month study time.
Yeah. But the thing is that I don't want anybody to feel like, okay, well, it's only 9 months, so you can't possibly have told me everything, or it can't possibly have everything. It's everything you need to get started. Everything else is going to be experience. Okay. I basically took, it's like I said, it's basically 2.5 years worth of art school, minus all of the book reports and studio time where you're painting in a class with other people. All of the lecture material has been woven into this course. And then there's additional stuff that we talk about in class, because I'm also a working professional illustrator. So there are times where I'm going to be showing students what I'm currently working on, if I legally can. But oftentimes what I do with the students is when new Magic card illustrations have come out, I'm able to post something on the school's platforms and let them know, well, here's, come over and let's watch this video. Let me show you what it's like to be working as a professional today. And let me walk you through the process of creating this image from concept to finish. And I think it's really beneficial for students to see that process and to understand that they are being taught by somebody that is actively doing the thing that he's saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so let's move on and talk a little bit about system requirements. If you are ready to join, what should you prepare?
So the software requirements for this course are Adobe Photoshop. The school provides a student license, and you can deal with that directly with the admissions team. Optional software is PureRef. A lot of students use that for their reference gathering, and they just have their wall of imagery. DAZ 3D is a free 3D posing, 3D modeling software. Blender is another great resource that some of my students are currently using to develop their illustrations. So hardware requirements, we don't want your computer to blow up, trying to run any of that. So minimum of 8 gigs required, but 16 and beyond is ideal. The graphics card, Windows GPU with a DirectX 12 support and 2 gigs of GPU memory. If you know what any of that means, then good for you. Just make sure that, you're basically, we don't want your computer to blow up or overheat or you not be able to do the work because you are working on a, 2005 laptop. All right. So you can see the full requirements on the Photoshop's or Adobe website.
So meet your illustration mentors. Besides Eric, we also have many other mentors. They're awesome and coming from with different backgrounds as well.
So, there's Brandon, he's the head of our department, Bernie Kang, Hamza, Khan, Esther, Tyler James, they're all fantastic. They all know this stuff. They're all working professionals. And that's part of the great thing that CGS offers is having working professional artists teaching the courses and people that have experience, and the information that they're giving you isn't 10 or 15 years out of date like some schools. We can tailor the Q&As to your needs. As I said before, in term 3 of the illustration course, it's more of an independent study. So if you say to me, I want to do nothing but create samples to show this specific studio, I can say, okay, then let's go. You get assistance with personal projects. I just mentioned that in term 3, we talk about developing personal projects, industry insights and advice, pro tips and setups. We're available on Zoom and Slack, weekly feedback sessions that range from like an hour. We have an hour weekly feedback video sessions. We provide recorded video critiques of your work. So it's not just the video content. It's not just the hour of video content. It's not just the hour live session. We are also providing you with recorded video critique, midweek feedback. So you have constant access to us. If you just want to say, what does this look like? How do you think this feels right now? What do you think of this project? Or what do you think of that? And, we can chime in and give you that feedback that you need in order to level up and to, progress in your studies. Access to multiple mentors via the Slack community. So it's not just me, again, it's all of our concept art team that students can reach out to for additional feedback, because we're all different human beings, and I might miss something or somebody else might miss something that I catch. And it's always great to have a second or third pair of eyes to make sure that your portfolio is as strong as it can possibly be. We help by curating your portfolio. What do you want to do? Who are you and what do you want to do? I'm not trying to make clones. We're not trying to make clones of any of us. We're trying to help you find your path as an artist. And there are extracurricular Zoom events for covering art fundamentals. So the concept art department has a art fundamentals course covering line, shape, value, light, all of the different life. We have a life drawing, an online life drawing class where we're focusing on anatomy and gesture drawing, and that I host. And we also have a composition open session where we really get in and start talking about the finer details of the how and why a illustration was created. We talk about cinematography, we talk about color, we talk about light, all of the things that, well, some of the things that you need to know. We tap into all of that, and while listening to movie soundtracks. I like that. I like that part. That's my favorite part.
Before moving into this video to showing you how our course actually works, there's actually a very good question asked by one of our audience. So how good do I need to be at the starting line? Let's say the intro course. Yes.
I mean, you have to be honest with yourself for that. If you are coming from a career in accounting and have never drawn anything before, it's going to be difficult. If you have drawn, painted in life, you've put in hours at an atelier or something like that, or you've basically have some kind of artistic background, we're going to be enhancing what you already know how to do. All right. It's not like, you know, like learning how to play the piano. You can learn how to play the piano, but are you going to be ready to play in a concert in a week? You know what I mean? So you have to have some basic skill.
It also depends on how much time you're ready to put into the course. I know our recommended time is 20 hours per week.
Minimum.
But yes, minimum, because you see how condensed our material could be. So if you realize that maybe you compared to your peers, you are more like a beginner, you can put more hours and then you can really push yourself to get to a certain level that you feel like more comfortable to continue your studies. Cool. So I hope that answers your questions. Let's take a small break and watch these videos on how the course actually works.
If you're looking to turn your creative passion for film and games into a successful career as a digital artist in the entertainment industry, choosing the right school can be a challenging decision. But imagine if you had access to industry mentors who have worked on blockbuster films and best-selling video games, supporting you every step of the way. When you enroll at CG Spectrum, you'll be connected to the most talented artists around the world who are excited to share their years of knowledge, ensuring that you are highly trained, well-connected, and prepared for your new career. Here's how it works. At the start of each week, you'll log into your learning management system where you review lesson requirements, watch your video lectures, and get started creating the first pass of your assignment. Next, you'll upload your files and meet with your mentor for a live midweek Q&A session to review your work, problem-solve issues, and discuss any questions you might have. Mentors work within your file-solving problems in real time, demonstrating their professional workflow to ensure that you don't make the same mistake twice. After the live Q&A session, you'll have until the end of the week to address your mentor's notes and submit another pass for a final video critique, ensuring that your work is portfolio ready. During your time at CG Spectrum, you'll have access to a curriculum designed by industry-leading artists, custom created video content and supportive materials, as well as free educational software, access to our student learning portal and online community where you'll get feedback on your work and grow your professional network. By the end of the course, you'll have learned the skills necessary to produce a polished professional portfolio and have the confidence in knowing that you have what it takes to succeed as an artist in the film and game industry. So if you're interested in becoming part of the next generation of production-ready artists and joining alumni at major studios all over the world, let us help you find your pathway to success. To be the best, learn from the best at CG Spectrum.
I saw another very great questions from our chat. Is asking if you're interested in both illustrations and animations, which course you should study. Actually, we have a job opportunities as illustrators. Maybe you can find your answer here with Eric together.
So if the person asking that question is trying to be an animator, we're talking 2D, 3D animation, something like that. I mean, it can't hurt to understand color and composition and lighting and all of the things necessary to compose a visual. We cover a lot on cinematography, which has a lot of overlap with film and animation as well. So job opportunities as an illustrator include visual development artists, as I've mentioned, storyboard artist, product illustrator, focusing on comic books, book covers, children's books, trading cards, board games, editorial work, film and television, promotional art, concept art, character and environment design, video games, splash art and concept art, advertising and packaging art. So think toys and movie posters and things like that. Fashion and costume illustration. So there's a huge market for that as well, especially focusing on costume illustration for film. And the costume illustrator is somebody that works directly with the costume designer on a major Hollywood production. So the costume designer is essentially like the art director, telling the costume illustrator, the design influence is Africa, or the design influence is Greek with a splash of something else. And we need to see some ideas around flowing robes and tribal patterns and all of that stuff. And the costume illustrator's job is to make that visual a reality with the casting choice of Cate Blanchett or something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of different avenues that can be explored once you have a solid foundation with the information covered in the course. If you want to move into different disciplines, animation or film, having an understanding of how to compose an image will help. I have given feedback to students in our film and animation department, and when it comes to modeling and animating, doing their motion cycles and or walk cycles and things like that, they're spot on. They can do that really well. But then if you ask them to place a camera in the scene and how to make a really dynamic moment of that tiger walking past camera, like where do they place the camera? How do they evoke an emotional response in the viewer? They're probably not being shown that as in depth as somebody that might be taking the illustration course. So because we're all about that, we're all about composition here. So hope that answers the question.
We always say that CG Spectrum is a film and game online school, but actually, at least for the illustration course, I think it also covers a lot of jobs and opportunities in other industry as well, so like children's book and like trading card games. That's something that I didn't realize that can be covered and can be touched with the learning of illustration as well. Some other students' testimonials from students who graduated from the digital illustration course, and they are also from different backgrounds, and they started at a different points in their life. Some of them are already working as a professionals in the industry, like Ahmed. Eric, you know Ahmed as your students, right?
Yeah, Ahmed was one of the students I mentioned earlier that it was a current working professional concept artist. He does some fantastic stuff, and he needed to put a polish on his existing skill set, mainly so that he could show his employer that he was good enough to do additional illustration work that the company produces as promotional images and stuff like that for their games. So he got exactly what he came for. And Jessica is one of my students that is focusing on aiming her portfolio at Blizzard and some other studios. Her work has improved tremendously over the almost 2 years that she's been with the program, moving from the intro, the concept art and illustration courses through into the advanced courses. And it's been amazing to see her development. Henry is somebody that started with me in the concept art and illustration course, and he did not have a digital illustration or a digital art background. when Henry started my class, he had just installed Photoshop. He had only been using it for 3 months. And he's by far one of the strongest concept art students currently at CG Spectrum right now. And I'd say is near industry ready. I mean, he is prolific. When I say prolific, there's a picture. The definition of prolific has a picture of Henry right next to it, cheesing. So, he's a hardworking man, and I'm really, really proud of everything that he has accomplished here.
So here are some studios that already hire our previous graduates, and these are also places that you may be able to work in the futures. Even you're completely new to the film and game industry, you must recognize some of them in those end of the movie credits. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of studying at CG Spectrums, because there are just so many, so I'll run through it very quickly. First of all, it's a training focused on portfolio buildings, which means that we are cutting a lot of credits and units that it's not necessary and your employers will not really care. And then we try to condense all the materials into a shorter time to let you know how to achieve the best result with the shortest times. We also has a lot of flexibilities for students, as you can choose when to study based on your own daily routines. From the how it works video, it has already shown you that you will have your pre-recorded materials to review each week, and then you will meet with your mentor once in a week to chat with them and show your work in progress and get feedbacks. The good thing is you are not going to be review your work once. You're going to continuously working on your projects, and you can able to get more and more feedbacks as long as you make more progress. And there's no a deadline for you to finalize your work. Everything you're going to learn from CG Spectrum is up to date because as Eric mentioned before, all our mentors are actively working in the industry right now. So all the insights you're learning, they're fresh out there, especially for an industries like gaming and filming. Everything in a studio is changing so fast. So you really want to know like what new techniques is applied to this studio, what kinds of new positions it's out there, what kind of skill a recruiter is actually looking for. And also we have a lovely TA teams to assist you all the times. So even if you are studying at home by yourself, you are not alone at all. And besides all these benefits, we also have private class options and a small group class option provided to you to choose. If, let's say, you have a very rigid schedule for yourself and you want to have a longer time to meet with your mentor every week during the live sessions, you can choose the one-on-one private class options. By choosing that, you will have the complete 1 hour live sessions with your mentor each week. You can also ask your mentor to help you tailor a little bit of the curriculum to match with your personal study goal. For example, if you are more interested in game rather than visual effects or film studios, your mentor can totally help you to see what they can do. And if you want more challenging tasks, and you already have a good study point before you joining CG Spectrums, like Eric said, we can also help you to hone your skill even into another level. So, and with the small class, you're going to study with maximum 3 other students. So it's a very decent size of the class to learn from each other, build your small community already, and then bring your experience and bring your networking further from there. So speaking about career service, we have a very lovely career development manager. Her name is Maxine Smith. I used to work with her actually in my previous experience, and she was the producer at that time. Very resourceful and at the same time informative as well. Maxine is actually our contact point between studios worldwide and CG Spectrums. To support each student in their journeys, we will offer both a live group class to discuss common issues and topics that students and alumni have met with, and along with an optional one-on-one career guidance provided by Maxine's to pinpoint some solutions which are more specific to students' personal situations. So with this personalized approach given to students on how to adapt to their own personal strength, we feel like it will increase the chance for you to be hired in the futures when you're ready to send out your portfolios. During this one-on-one career guidance, this one-on-one personal meetings, we can do a portfolio review, you can do mock-up interviews, and there's also a portfolio database that we are ongoing building. And whenever there's an employer reaching out to us and asking like a certain type of talent or student with certain skills, Maxine will be able to hand in their portfolio to the recruiters directly right away. And also a little bit about the CG Spectrum communities. So if you would like to meet more people like Penny and Oliver's, here is the right place for you. It's the places for networking, not only with students, alumni, but also with all the mentors CG Spectrums have. So networking is very important in these industries, especially if you're starting to look for a job. You will need good referees, and here's how we can help you. Also, let's say if you've done a lot of solo work and you're ready to create a bigger project, it's here that you can find some collaborative projects and some other artists to work with you together to build a group work. So in short, it's a great place to know people around the world without even leaving your house. And it's also my personal favorite part about CG Spectrums, and I hope it will be the same for you as well. Okay, now Q&A sessions. I plan to enroll in the concept art and illustration course sometimes this year. However, I have been postponing my enrollment for the last few months to work on my fundamentals. How good my fundamentals should be to make the most of your courses and set my setup by be successful in the professional world after graduation.
Again, this really depends on your experience with drawing and at what point in your life you began drawing and painting or creating, sketching, anything like that. Every student that takes a course at CG Spectrum began creating art at different points in their life. So there are people in classes that are like excel at this stuff and it's easy. And there are other people that are more challenged by the material. But it's really your success in the arts is really going to depend on your work ethic and your dedication to artistic growth. So if the school is saying you need to put in 20 hours minimum of work and you put in 5 per week, then you're not going to see much growth. You're not going to see much improvement. If, like the student, one of the students I mentioned, Henry, puts in way over 20 hours worth of work, effort into each piece, and you can see that. I could see that in his growth per week into his advanced courses. So you don't need to be amazing at the fundamentals. It would help if you understood how to draw, but from there, we can handle the rest. But you have to be able, and you have to be willing to put in the time and the effort to improve. And that's across the board with anything, with any creative industry, with any athletic pursuit. You have to practice in order to improve, right? I can't throw a ball to save my life, but I'm pretty sure if I tried, I could do that slam dunk one day, but it's about time. Okay.
Another question is the course every week you offered one different skills? Isn't it a little bit time to know it?
For the concept art and illustration course that you would take before any advanced course here, you are being introduced to a topic, whether it's perspective, lighting, color, whatever. It is up to you to watch the video content, absorb that information, and try to apply it in the assignments that are given. Now, you could sit and watch a YouTube video on how to change a tire, but if you don't do it, you're going to lose that information. You're going to forget it, right? So it's not about it's not a little amount of time to know it. You can know anything, but if you don't apply that knowledge, you're going to forget, right? That's the point. So you need to take the time after being informed about what the topic is per week, and you need to apply that knowledge to your art. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get. Okay. That's it.
Great. So there's another questions. I think I can answer that. If I start in the illustration program but find interested in other fields throughout the class, is there a possibility to switch to another track? The answer is yes. We can discuss it a little bit further. It's more like an application process and application questions. We do have students that complete the intro course the first 3 months and then realize that, oh, actually, I am more into maybe 2D animations or 3D modelings. We can definitely look into that. Or even if you have enrolled into a full course, we can still switch credits within CG Spectrum's courses.
I just want to add on to that, I feel like a lot of concept art students don't understand is that at some point in time, your client is going to ask you to take all of those assets and put it together into a narrative illustration, whether that's marketing material or whatever. It's good to be able to show a potential employer that you have both skills, right? Not just that you can draw and paint that mech design or that of like 3 sheets worth of armor or vehicles or weapon designs, but that you could take all of that, put a character in that mech suit, have them holding your gun design, put that explosive volcano environment design in the background, and have a full-blown scene of a giant mech standing on a giant alien's head, crushing it while underlit by the lava flows, of a volcano beneath that character, and what that looks like, and having that look believable enough for them to promote it for the game, right? At some point, as a concept artist, you're going to be asked to do that. So I have students that moved through the intro courses and took the advanced concept art course and then came over to the advanced illustration course so that they can put the entire sandwich together, right? Not just pieces. They put the whole meal together. Then they can put their portfolio out there in the world and say, yeah, I can do it all. It's better. It makes you look better and more of an asset to a team if you can say, yeah, I know how to play around with ZBrush, Blender, I understand color, I understand composition, and I can do however many sheets, concept designs of, mech armor or, elf girls you want me to do, but I can do it all. Right? Not just a piece. Because if you can only do a piece, I guarantee you that there's 2,000 other people on ArtStation that can do it all.
And it's also what the recruiter is trying to look for. When are they going to look for someone who's a very great specialist, or if you are able to handle all different kind of tasks? Sometimes we have to think from what the employers or the person who is going to give you a job offers, what what are they thinking? What are they searching at talents? Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Hi, Eric. I'm actually in the progress of setting up a meeting to discuss more about one-on-one mentorship for the advanced course. I'm pretty hesitant about enrolling in another schools because I feel like a lot of courses aren't personalized enough to the things that I'm struggling with or want to improve upon. How tailored can be the course gets, and how flexible is it to add or remove study topics?
Super tailored. Super tailored. All right. Like I said in the video content, I had a student tell me this is specifically what she wanted to do in the course, and we tailored every project to that goal. Oliver here from day one told me, this is my goal. I want to do illustrations for Magic the Gathering. And I said, okay, so we are going to warp every project that we do together toward that end. And if you come to me and you say, you know what, I'm not interested in working with any of those companies. I want to do my own thing. I want to do my own personal work and aim it at my online audience. Like say you, I don't know you, so but maybe you've got 20,000 Instagram followers and they love your elf girl art or whatever that is that you create, but you want to enhance that so that you can make, you know, magnets and all kinds of merchandise off of that product, off of your art, then okay. It's about helping you to level up so that by the end of that 9-month course, you are infinitely better than when you walked in and are able to market your work directly to your audience. So that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm not trying to make clones, and I'm not trying to force anybody into a genre of illustration or a field of illustration. When I'm introducing you to all of the different avenues that there are within this art form, but I'm not telling any of my students, here's what you're going to do, right? In the third term for one of my students based in Australia, she knew in her heart, I'm really not into fantasy. I'm not really into the sci-fi stuff. And for a school based around visual effects and animation, every single student in here is doing some form of sci-fi fantasy art, whether it's 2D or 3D or whatever. But she wanted to do children's book samples. So I said, okay, we can speak to that. I can speak to that. And I helped her put together children's book samples that she could then present to a publisher. So whatever it is that you are interested in doing, I can speak to it because I've done everything from advertising, illustration, storyboards, and through to movie poster design and publishing. So I've kind of dipped my foot in everything that I'm talking about.
We also have a questions about, is there anyone that I can send a portfolio to review before we actually enroll? Yes, we do have a lot of students sending us a portfolio, and we will do an assessment with Eric or Brandon. Brandon is another mentor with us, and before you actually enroll, and we'll be able to tell you which course we think that you will be a good fit in.
Yeah, so typically when students are unsure, they would send their portfolio or their ArtStation link or whatever to the school, and then that would be sent to the head of our department, which is Brandon Remkin. And then Brandon would assess that, or would for the concept art, or because he's in control of that whole concept art and illustration department. If the student was specifically saying they wanted to take the advanced illustration course, that would be sent to me to then gauge whether or not that person could handle the material. What's interesting is that I've had students that have shown more of that kind of Sailor Moon, anime, fan art kind of inspired stuff, and pinup art. I like they show me pinup art, and it's really cute kind of stuff. But I tell them, like, that's somebody that I can work with. That's perfectly fine, because again, I'm not trying to make clones, and I can speak to different stylistic choices that the student wants to make. But I say to them, okay, this is what you're capable of in week 1. This is the pinup art that you've been doing. What if we play with the light? What if we play with the color? What if we play with the camera angle and the composition? What if we do this, 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 and this? How much better could you be by week 12? And I'm actively in the middle of watching that progression happen with some of my students, some of my more stylistic anime inspired students. So you come to me, if you come into the course or you come to the school, submit your portfolio, they would direct you from there based on your portfolio and see what happens.
Also adding to that, I saw this question previous asked in our chatting group. There's no test or require portfolio submission before you want to apply our course or enroll. So whenever you're ready, you can send an application in, but we do encourage you to send whatever you think you would like us to review before actually starting your course. That's super encouraged, and we would be very happy to again do the free assessments for you before getting you starting. Okay, I see there's a last questions. It's about how many hours of the courses it will be for each week. And then it really depends on which week and which topics, I guess.
So you're only being asked to watch a 1-hour video, maybe an hour and 5 minutes, something like that. You know, I mean, I've seen people binge watch an entire season of a show on Netflix in a weekend. So I think an hour is good, right? It's an hour of instruction or an hour of video content where you're being told about a specific topic. And from there, you can apply that information to whatever project you are currently working on in the class. And that goes across disciplines that the school is offering. You're only being shown a 1-hour video. From there, it's about applying yourself with that minimum of 20 hours a week. I know that's not possible for some people. They have day jobs and things like that, or they might have kids or whatever. But it's really about time management and finding that 4 hours a day or something like that to really pour into your work, into your art. If this is something you are really passionate about, you have to put in the time. So I can't stress that enough.
And I think that will be all the questions we have. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Eric, Penny, and Oliver again. If you would like to contact us and know more, or just wanted to say hi to Eric, feel free to email us at hello@cgspectrum.com. We also have a CG Spectrum channel on YouTube. We have an Instagram account as well, and you'll be able to see more and more student works and also some good newsletters from CG Spectrums.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.